Hey guys, we're gonna go through how to refurbish this. This is my wife's original Game Boy. That screen glue let up on its own. We'll fix that later. It turns on, but there's some dead lines on the screen. I'll show you how to fix that here later in the video too. You can see the sun damage. We'll take care of that. Other than that, it's in really good shape. It's mostly cosmetic, and then the screen being an issue. So, set that aside for now. You're going to need a small Phillips or a Nintendo Tri-Wing, which is a 3-bladed screwdriver. They're pretty cheap online, couple dollars. And they still use those screws on all their stuff. This one was old enough. I read some of them don't even use Tri-Wing screws. We're going to take the batteries out. You can see the first screws here to open up the case. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll start with those. If you do any kind of handiwork, I like doing this kind of stuff. Those little pen screwdriver sets, get yourself a decent one. They're not that much. This one's pretty comfy, and you can change out the different shaft sizes, different bit sizes. I got this for RC cars that we mess around with sometimes. Make sure you don't lose any of the screws. I put these in the center of this roll of electrical tape, but I've also used little paper plates, shot glass, all kinds of things. Hold all your little tiny parts so you don't lose them. Sometimes putting a towel down helps too. Keep them from bouncing off the table or getting knocked off. Two more screws and we should have this case ready to pop off. A little bit of trouble getting this one loose. Just take your time. I've noticed if that's a problem, sometimes stepping up a size in the screwdriver helps. Finally got that one to come out, as you can see right here. Put these screws in there like I was doing earlier. Alright, move this stuff out of the way. We're ready to carefully open this up. Because there's a connector on the screen that goes from the front board to the back board. You just gotta like wiggle this a little bit, side to side, gently. And as you see, it'll eventually loosen up and come out. be patient. There's tons of videos on YouTube on how to do this too. If you need a different reference and maybe I don't cover something and you have a problem, just look it up. There's some screws on this board we gotta remove. We gotta take this all out. We need to get it down to the plastic. She even has the original network link plug cover on it. Probably a lot of people lost those. It's a power button switch. This is the headphone jack on the bottom of it. Alright, that's the board's loose. There's where you can see where the cartridge goes in it. That black thing. There's the processor. Also noticed the volume dial had a little crackle in it, and I just basically cleaned that out later before putting them back together. It wasn't really a big issue. Take this metal cover off too. Just a couple screws. We're gonna, I'm gonna show you coming up next once I get this apart how we're gonna make that gray plastic gray again and no yellow. See that? That's like sun damage. A lot of this older gray plastic, including like Apple computers, the old ones in the 80s, they use a technique to clean the plastic called retrobrite, and you'll see here in a minute how I do that. Pop the battery terminals out of the back. They just kind of clip into the plastic. As you can see, they fall out when you push. There you go. Just that one. There it is. There's the back shell. That's where the batteries go. Oh, I had one more contact in the back I didn't see. There you go. Now to get this out. The screen side. You gotta be careful with this little speaker. It's just kind of like laying in there, and there's little tiny wires. You don't want to bend them around too much. Just want to be like careful with it. A couple more screws. I fixed quite a few handhelds, including a PSP I bought water damaged on eBay a couple years back for like 30 bucks. It wouldn't even work. The casing was all broke. I ended up taking it apart, cleaning it, and putting a new screen in it and a new casing, and it was like brand new again. I fixed 3DSs a bunch for the kids. DSs. Those hinges on the thing, if they dropped them, they'd usually crack. I had to learn how to like take them apart and replace the plastic on it. Almost got all the screws out. Should be able to take the screen out here in a second. It's neat seeing what how these things are built when you take stuff apart, whether it's a console or a handheld or some other kind of tech. It's neat to see and then realize that somebody got paid to design this. A lot of people worked on this thing, you know, when they were coming up with it. To be careful, this board can be a little tight. Mine, you'll see here, takes a little bit of fidgeting to get it to pop loose. It's just like tight around those little plastic posts where it goes together. These little tiny plastic pry tools, you get like a cell phone kit, fixing kit, they're pretty handy. And there's where we'll fix the screen. That's the connector to it. Speaker needs cleaned out a little bit. It's not too bad. Take these rubber pads off. We'll scrub them. A little bit of dirt on them. We'll put them back on here so we don't lose it. Next step is scrubbing and treating the plastic. Alright, let's clean it. We're going to use a toothbrush and some soap, maybe some rubbing alcohol if needed. Alright guys, we're going to start scrubbing this and get it ready to treat the plastic parts. Yeah, look how sun damaged that is. The old NES plastic, you can treat this same way too if you get one and it's all gunked up, stained, dirty. This is called Retro Bright. Just use a little bit of Dawn soap. You want to get all the dirt off first for the chemical stuff to really be able to get to the plastic. Can add some water to it. Old toothbrush. This used hot water in it. Stir all the soap up a little bit. See if we can get these fit in here. Need more water. You know how to do that. All these parts I'm going to throw in the rubber. We'll scrub those. Alright, and then you just want to give the whole thing like a good scrub down once it's soaked in the soap water a little bit. And just get any of the loose dirt off. Any of the grime. Yeah, the speaker thing. The control, where the control buttons go, usually they get like hand dirt down on those. Alright, with that all ready, let's you can see I scrubbed all the parts. It's wet. that doesn't really do anything for that. The next thing we're going to do, this retro brighting, is what's key. I put mine into, because I have a sous vide immersion cooker, I put mine into a vacuum bag. It's that little plug cover. I'm not going to put the buttons or the rubber things in. There's my immersion cooker. I set it to 160 degrees. I filled this with 40% peroxide. You can get that at Sally's Beauty Shop or any kind of like specialty beauty supply place. It's basically like high potency peroxide that you use for hair. So be careful getting it on your hands and stuff. It can like give you burns and stuff. You gotta watch it. We're gonna let that cook for 8 hours at that exact temperature. You can do this without the sous vide. It's just I have it and it's easier to keep an exact temperature with it. You can do it in like a pot if you want. You just gotta be careful and watch the temperature. It doesn't get too hot. I ended up running this twice. The first time it got rid of a lot of it, but I wasn't happy with it, so I ended up doing it 16 hours total. Here's the stuff. That's what you want to put in with it. Alright. We got them cleaned up. We're going to start putting this back together and get it ready to fix the screen. It's the same as taking it apart. You're just putting everything back in reverse, obviously. Like I said, the most important thing with messing with this stuff is don't force anything. You know, if something isn't quite working, try it again or make sure you're doing it right, putting it in right. You don't want to like really rip and tear on stuff. You don't want to over tighten screws, you just want to barely snug them. Because you can, with Hulk grip, you can strip out plastic like self-tapping screws and you really don't want that. This was pretty easy to take apart, put back together. Newer stuff's a little bit harder. Like that PSP I fixed, it's there's some real tight spots in that, like the way everything's stacked together in that small form factor. And you see it just drops in again. Make sure everything's lined up. Get the headset jack in there. We'll start by putting that back on. Alright, the microphone board is attached in the port. Now what we're going to do is get ready to fix this screen. You got to carefully re-push this cable back up into there. It just kind of just pushes in. There's no locks on this like some things have. There's like a little lock on a lot of stuff with a ribbon cable. This kind of is just pressure fit. You know, just wiggle it back in place again, just like I did before. Just a little bit of pressure. Make sure it's in there. I use this flipped around X-Acto knife to take off this rubbery foam strip that covers the solder connection for the screen. Carefully, just like it peels up, it's just like stuck on there. Just gotta be careful. Just get it start, and then we take this off. And just gently pull. It's just like stuck on there. We're gonna save that. Set that aside for now. That's where we're gonna like fix this with the soldering iron here in a second. It's turning on. It's hard because I don't have the plastic button on the side yet because the case is apart. Here we go. And what you want to do is you turn the contrast the whole way up to where the screen's all black, and then where you see these green lines, you take this soldering iron and little by little you wave it there, and as you can see, it's basically reconnecting the weak solder points that make these lines show up on the Game Boy screen. I will tell you that it takes a little bit doing this, so be patient doing it. And sometimes you gotta like let it cool down and check it again and adjust it again. And another thing to remember is if you have horizontal lines, you can't fix it. You'd have to replace the screen. You can only do the vertical ones this way. And give it a break here. Alright, we let it sit a bit, so let's come back to it, see if we can get the rest of these out. This little bit, so you can see I'm starting to get them to, you want it all black. Like I said, you turn the contrast the whole way dark, so the screen turns dark. And then you adjust it little by little with the soldering iron until you reconnect these little points. See what we got here. I let it like rest a little bit in between recording. I'm getting close. So, since we got it fixed, I've tested it. We're going to put the strip back, and what you want to do is cut 1 or 2 little strips of black electrical tape to like pad this with, to help hold down pressure on that solder joint once the casing's all back together. It kind of helps keep it from having that problem again where the solder disconnects. Alright guys, now that we got the screen working, let's put the buttons back in and get ready to remount the screen, the board with the screen in it, back to the plastic casing here. You see, you put the plastic in first, the rubber over top. It's pretty self-explanatory when you get to this point. Unless you try to put that in backwards like I just did. It's a direction pad. The rubber contact piece touches the board to tell it what buttons you're hitting. There's the other one for A and B. We're just gonna fold this over here, lay it out just like I took it apart. Just be careful of that ribbon cable as you're doing this. And as you can see, I set the speaker where it goes. It just kind of rests in there. Like I said before, be careful of the wires. Put these screws back in. You should know the drill by now. All the screws are removed and put back in. Getting close to finishing this up though, so it's exciting. Take it for a test drive, see how it looks and how it works. Sorry for the earthquake cam. Standing there, I bumped my camera mount, like tripod that I use. These little screws are small, especially when you have big fingers and big hands. Almost got it. Like I said earlier, just don't over tighten, just snug them. And we're going to shut this thing here in a second. Make sure this one is tightened down completely. Alright, so we're ready to like hinge this back together here, and I'm gonna have to take the batteries out to put the case screws in that holds the case together. So then take the batteries out so I can put these screws in, the case screws. You know the drill. Put the batteries back in. Put the cover back on. Let's not forget this. Put the link plug back in. I'm gonna like fire this up before we put the plastic protective screen on. Let's try a game in it and see what it does. Tried Tetris. This was the only game she ever had for it. Believe it or not, I had a bunch as a kid. Gave them all away to a friend. My system, everything when I got a Game Gear. Wish I would have kept it. Yeah, this is gonna need cleaned, and what I'll do is use some rubbing alcohol and thin nail file and just kind of like re-sand the contacts in the cartridge and see if it's clean or whether it's the Game Boy. And I'll get that fixed. It'll work. Alright, let's put the protective screen on. I looked it up and I couldn't find much info on what adhesive to use. I saw someone on Reddit said they used silicone, so this is a white, but it'll dry clear, but you don't use much. It'll like seal. And any rough little gobs you see or whatever, I clean up on the outside. And I did this video a while ago and it's still holding up. I don't see any issue with it. Make sure you wipe the inside. You want to keep all the dust off before you like lock it in there. So I gave it another microfiber wipe. This is her original screen. There's a couple little light scratches on it, but like I said, was going for original on this. Eventually I might get one and put a new screen in it, because you got to modify the plastic on the front to make the new screen fit the ones that backlight and stuff. So just clean up after you're done with it. A little water takes that off when it's wet. Alright, let's turn it on and see if it works. There's that iconic Gameboy sound. I had this game originally. I got this recently to try it again. I bought it on eBay. Screen looks good. It's hard to see in the glare. It's hard to record the Game Boy screen. People ask why I didn't replace it with a backlit newer or whatever. I wanted to restore this to like original. Keep it as close to what it was like from the original. I didn't replace anything. I just like cleaned and fixed it. Alright. This is looking good. Well, I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, remember to like and subscribe, and I'll put a VR video up next few days, so be on the lookout for it. I'll see you guys then. Later, guys.